Yeah. Recording is in progress. All right, so uh, I just literally published an assignment due at the end of this week, Thursday. Now that we're all here, really quick, let me just back up for 1 minute and say I've been getting these emails from Marion and now Caesar in the office, the front office of the School of Architecture, and they've let me know that the air conditioning unit in the building is down and it won't be fixed until sometime tomorrow afternoon. So our plans were for anybody who wanted to or could, we would meet in person. I, of course, have Zoom open for those who can't. But we would be meeting in person tomorrow, Wednesday. This week, I don't see that happening because it looks like that it'll be sometime tomorrow before they even start. They get the right parts or something. I don't know, whatever they need. Maybe they had to replace the condenser unit or something. I don't know, whatever. But they had to. They're going to repair the air conditioning hopefully on Wednesday. I was advised that it's pretty warm and uncomfortable in the building um, yesterday and today and probably tomorrow. So we'll just do Zoom this week. And then maybe next week we can reassess and see if everything's working all right and it's comfortable. Then those who want to be in person, we can certainly meet in person on Wednesday. And again, I sort of leave this open. We can always sort of look and reassess, give some feedback if that's worth it or not, if you value that or not. I'm pretty open, but it is an acknowledgement. I mean, I think we're all in different situations geographically. Some of us, it's pretty easy because you'll be there already on Wednesdays. To meet in person, others not so easy. And plus, I think every individual learns differently, and so I'm happy to make this multimodal and do online or in person or a combination thereof as needed. So anyway, if you have any thoughts on that, please let me know. You can always just write me or pull me aside sometime. Um, right. So this assignment, hopefully I gave you some time to read through this assignment. It's not very long. But what I'm asking you to do is produce a PDF, probably a couple of pages. One page would be a sort of grid or matrix of Axon diagrams where you're either showing step by step, like how the pieces start to fit together and build up into your vessel, your overall composition. Or you could take, here's my composition, and I'm going to take the shell off and show it sort of X-ray view and then start to show as you sort of remove or analyze it in different ways. Maybe you have one that just shows all the verticals for structure, all the horizontals for floor plates and things like that. So again, I'll go through some workflows and at the same time, hopefully you'll start to understand and feel a little more comfortable in sort of understanding what I'm asking for and then coming up with your direction. All right. But like I said, one page would be like a sort of matrix or grid of axon diagrams where you're, showing your process, how you've made this thing, maybe step by step as a set of snapshots, almost like a storyboard, like they used to do with animations. Or breaking down, analyzing your planar composition, where you show it and then you show how what happens when you remove the outside shell, and then what happens when you pull out this or that or the other. You can explode it, you can X-ray it or whatever. All right, so we'll talk about those things today. Then the second page would be a sort of a 2 by 2 grid where you have four larger axons of this vessel, but you're showing it from northeast and northwest and southeast, west and then southeast. So from all four sort of sides that we can see it in a 30-30 axon that Rhino makes for us. All right. Oh, and then finally a third page. I'll go over again sort of three interior perspectives. I'll talk about that. If not at the end of the day, then first thing tomorrow. Okay. And again, what I'd like to see is on Thursday for class that you've uploaded where you're at, right? Some of you might be done. Some of you probably looking at this and going, man, I can probably do this before lunch or something like that. And others, this might be the very first time you're working on this, or you might have questions, you get stuck, right? We'll spend the week demonstrating and working on this over the next 3 days, okay? Um, and hopefully by Thursday, most of you are, if not 100% done with it, 90% done. You're still submitting to show me that. And then over the weekend, I'll sort of have you start to make another vessel through the similar steps, right? So we'll start to get practice and we'll start to develop eventually four of these vessels that will become a significant part of your design project over the rest of the semester. All right. So it's just that I think you should be able to upload a PDF to this. And let's see here. Let's go to the modules. You'll see it right here at the, you have planar compositions part one and part two. We sort of went through that kind of stuff last week. We're sort of moving on to the instructions and demo showing part three. And today's recording will be put in the recording demonstrations. And here at the bottom is that first submission. What do you call it? They call it an assignment, but it's basically you can click here. I don't see what you see, but if I view it as a student, maybe it'll show me what you go, okay, once you have a PDF ready, you can start the assignment, upload it. I haven't assigned any points to it. It's more of complete or incomplete, and just sort of you submitted it or you didn't. Because really what I'm curious about is how much you've learned, where you're having hiccups or problems, or how I can, again, help you get over some learning curves if you're hitting some. Okay. Let's see here. And plus, I mean, this is just like an assignment. I just want to sort of see your process, right? Design studios and project-based courses are they're not a race, they're like a marathon slash puzzle, right? So it's a matter of um, how you're taking the constraints of the project and the instructions and interrogating those, investigating them, and creating something of your own. Okay, that takes time, and certainly I want to encourage you to not be afraid to. I want you to be fearlessly inventive, right? I don't want you to be afraid of pass, fail, or things like that. I want you to be earnest about trying your best, coming to class with questions if you have any, or problems if you ran into some, and then moving forward. All right. Let's see here. How do I, oh, leave student view. It's down at the bottom. Of course, the button originally is at the top. It's the dumbest interface design I've ever seen in my life. The world needs more design, by the way, not less, because yeesh, some of these systems are a hot mess. All right. So without any further ado, I've already fired up Windows. Let's get Rhino going here. Let's see. Let me see if I can move this out of the way. Yeah, that's going to stay there, I guess. I have my handy dandy mouse. Let's get this going. I'll probably forward you an email again, just as a reminder that we're just going to meet over Zoom tomorrow. Originally, I'd planned we'd meet in person, but the air conditioning being down sort of changed that. So teaching during the summertime is part planning and strategy and part improvisation. But let's see. Should just be loading here in just a minute. I'm just going to open up the demonstration file that I had going before. Let's see. Oh, close. Come on, you stupid. One thing I'll show you while I have Rhino up, maybe. Yeah, I don't know what my Windows is doing, but there we go. All right. Is eventually we'll load this Forma plugin into Rhino, and then I can begin to enter you can enter in your own Forma project URL, your own proposal for URL, and then actually bring in the site. And then anytime you want to bring anything from Rhino into Forma to do more sophisticated analysis like wind and solar and sun, heat, etc. You can just select which layers you want to bring in, send it to Forma. It sends it right back to that project. So they've sort of made a little interface here and really playing nice with platforms, other third-party platforms like Rhino and SketchUp. A lot nicer than they used to be. But that's something that's coming up later. Let's see. Go to my layers. Let's see. I'm in rendered mode. I find it really hard to see anything in render mode. It's like white background with white clay and a really bright environment. So I'm just going to go to shaded. Or actually, no, I think I'll go to either ghosted or X-ray. That way I can sort of see through. There's a little bit of translucency there. I'm just going to quickly compose a few more things, maybe make a couple of openings in my box so that I have something that might be similar to yours. Let's see. Dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun. Or maybe, I wonder if I just have an older one that's already sort of fully done, sort of fully baked, maybe. I don't know. Let's see. Apparently I don't. Damn. All right. Well, anyway, I'll just quickly do this. Maybe it's good practice. Let's see. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to move this up. This looks like it could be a really nice sort of window right here so that this, I don't know if you guys can see this, but this sort of slab that's running lengthwise sort of terminates and then just sort of slams into a dead end. Maybe I put a window there. Let's see here. Move. And I'm just going to snap this bad boy. Let's see. Move. Cancel. What is going on? MOVE. There we go. Snap. And I'm going to snap this guy in. It's hard to see red and red. But one of the things I'm going to do really quickly here is I'm going to shrink this down just a bit, scale it with the gumball. Yep. Scale it a bit more. There we are. Maybe I'll extrude surface, both sides, yes, solid, no. Right, and then I'll use some splittage here. Split, so let's split this with this. And let's get rid of that. Let's get rid of this and this. Oh, now we can see inside. More importantly, people on the inside can see outside. Maybe I'm framing a specific view, or maybe like Stonehenge, just things arranged according to celestial events, and I get shadows and things like that on special days of the year or something. I don't know. One thing you'll notice is that if I just do a simple trim and split, I might have like complete opening between the two sort of parts of the shell. I need to enclose that in, so I'm just going to do something really quickly here. Again, I'm going to go to my surface tools, right? So again, remember the toolbar on the left. Points are made to use or are used to make curves. Curves are made to use or used to make surfaces, right? So I have different ways of making surfaces, and we talked about filling in planar curves right here. Here's another one: surface from 2, 3, or 4 edge curves. So I'm just going to say, pick that edge curve and that edge curve. There we are, and close that up. I'm going to do the same thing here. Try to anyway. Let's see. There we are. And there we are. Close that up. Close, close. And even up here at the, up where the lintel would be, I'm gonna, oops. Right click to repeat the last command, edge, edge, and right click to enter. All right, so I'm closing this thing up slowly and surely, right? I would suspect that you have probably more planes inside of yours. Um, and, uh, you know, both vertical and horizontal. Probably a few more openings, but I'm just going to stick with this for the time being and just use this as the quick demonstration here. I wonder, yeah, okay, I have that closed up. All right. Yeah. So axons, right? So just a few quick things I want to sort of talk about here. Again, I'm recording this in case you need to go back and look at it later, but I'm just going to open up the annotate tools. Maybe. What did Windows just do? Windows, for some reason, decided to. Come on. Do something stupid. All right, here we go. All right. So smart, it's really quite dumb. All right, I'm just going to draw really quickly, right? So what you'll see here is not an axonometric or isometric view. This is a perspective view. And the reason I know that is because as I look at this, right, these edges that are parallel in actuality actually aren't parallel to the naked eye, but they actually converge to a vanishing point way off into space here, right? So this is an example of a two-point perspective. If I pull these lines out, right? Actually, there's a way to draw lines. Let me just draw some straight lines here. Sorry, it's been a while since I've used Zoom. There we go. Oops. Yeah, not too bad, right? Promise you, right? There's that one vanishing point. And then here's another vanishing point that we wouldn't actually see on our screen, sort of off the screen, but it's out there. All of these edges that are parallel to each other um, to our vantage point look like they are converging to um, all these edges are look like they would converge to vanishing points, two vanishing points, when in fact this might be a slight 3 point perspective, but for all practical purposes, these look about as vertical as they'll get. And so that's why we call the verticals stay vertical and are parallel to each other, but then the other edges converge to a vanishing points, right? So that's a basic 2 point perspective. That's how we kind of see in real life, right? So this looks very much like if we were looking at this in a camera or just standing there looking at it with our eyeballs, right? As things get closer, they actually look like they are larger. There's a human. And as they get further away, they actually look like they get smaller, right? Sorry, it's hard to draw with a mouse. I'm not sure if you can hear the mouse clicks or not. But yeah, again, you can sort of see that. So as things get closer, they're larger. As things get smaller, further away, they're much smaller. All right. Um, and so that's an example of a 2 point perspective. When we're looking at something on the oblique, right? Let me just adjust my camera view and let's look at this. I'll just hide this really quickly. From an orthogonal angle, but with our perspective turned on, right? This is an example of a 1 point perspective. All right, so the difference is I'm not looking at something on the oblique, I'm looking at it on axis. And so the things that are perpendicular to my axis of sight are parallel and horizontal. The things that are vertical remain vertical and are parallel to each other, right? So for instance, these verticals are true verticals. And this one's also a true vertical back here. And this one's a true vertical right here. This edge a true vertical right here, right? Yeah. Um, see how many times I can say vertical before it loses all meaning here. Same with the things that are perpendicular to us. They just remain as horizontal lines that are parallel, right? A true 1 point perspective. And then everything that's sort of in line with our axis, they recede to just one vanishing point. You can see these things all sort of lining up pretty closely to that vanishing point up here. Even this edge way up down there actually ends up way up there, right? So in this case, we can see that a 1 point perspective, um, and if I draw some sort of horizon line, let me just change the color here, and maybe even an eye level line. Let me just go back and keep drawing some. Right. So what we can see here is that, sorry, this interface is so clumsy. It's actually counterintuitive to actually getting anything done here. Right. So let's pretend that weird blob there is a person, right? As people get closer again, they appear larger. As they get further away, they appear smaller, right? The same thing with distance, right? So if I had a grid on my ground, those grid lines perpendicular to my point of view would get smaller and closer together as they, even though they're evenly spaced, as they get further away, and of course larger as they get closer, right? So anyway, those are perspective views, and that's what we typically see by default here in Rhino, right? So you can see if I line something up orthogonally, have that perspective view on, then suddenly I get a 1 point perspective. If I'm looking at something on the oblique, then I get a 2 point perspective, right? What I'm talking about with an axon drawing, these are sometimes called axonometric drawings, isometric drawings. There's different types. Those refer to different angles that you're using. Sometimes they're called paraline drawings, and here's why, right? So if I go to where it says perspective label and I right click or I just hit this little caret, we've been here before. I can change from wireframe to shaded or rendered or ghosted or X-ray. But I can also set my view, and you can see that the typical ones are top, left, right, front, and perspective. I can go down to isometric and I can say, let's use the northeast isometric, right? Or axon. I'll just use those terms interchangeably. I'm not really I'm not really concerned about, the technical definitions of, which one's 30/60 and which one's 45/45 or whatever. But anyway, what you'll see is that it's different, right? It looks three-dimensional, but it's fundamentally different. It doesn't look like what our eyeballs see. An abstraction. So there's a couple of key differences, right? One, there are no vanishing points, right? So what does that mean? That means that when I draw a line, let me just go to my line tool. Why can't they just have this out when I use it all the time? So I don't have to keep toggling it on. Anyway, doesn't matter which way I look, all of these going in the same direction are going to be parallel in an axon drawing, right? And it's the same thing with the other direction, this direction as well. All of these things are parallel, including this little edge right here and this edge up here, those edges there. And then the verticals are verticals. And they're going to be perpendicular, or sorry, parallel as well. Okay. Two, the scale remains the same. So the length here is the same as the length here, right? Doesn't matter how close or far away it is. That's just the way it is. It's a measured drawing. It's a form of orthographic drawing. But it's an axonometric projection, right? So and then three, right? And this is really important. So I'm just going to draw a horizontal that sort of coincides with this corner. What you can see is that this is an example of what we call a 30/30 axon. And the reason why we call it a 30/30 axon is that off of the horizontal, these things project 30 degrees, 30 degrees, right? So this isn't, even though in real world, this should be a 90-degree angle. In actuality, it's not in this drawing. It's a 30/30 axon. And of course, there are other types of axons. So for instance, if you were drawing an axon, one of the things you'd have to sort of decide is, um, do I do 30/30 or do I do 45/45? In which case, this would be a right angle, and this is 45, and this is 45, right? Or there's another typical one that sometimes you'll see. Let me just come up here. It's called a 30/60, right? So that's 30 degrees, that's 60 degrees. And then again, this is still a right angle, but this is 60 and this is 30, right? These all are very derivative of A, trying to describe something through mechanical drafting, but three-dimensionally, and B, the sort of triangles that we use and when we did manual drafting way back in the day. So having a 45/45 triangle and a 30/60 triangle to run along a parallel bar, was really kind of suggested, exactly what these key angles would be. So that's really common. You have the 30/30. Yeah. Oh, I guess I'm not drawing there. Let's see. Come on, freehand this bad boy. All right. We have the 30/30, 45/45, 30/60. Rhino by default, and it's hard to sort of break this. There are methods to do it. By default, Rhino really likes 30/30s. They're really nice looking as well. So we'll stick with 30/30, right? But just again, letting you know what those axons look like. So it's really easy sometimes to come in here and go, oh, um, Axon, that's a 3D view. And what you don't realize is that it's turned to perspective. And really, in reality, this is not an axon. It's a perspective. And things are actually converging to those vanishing points. Or here's another thing that can happen. I go to isometric. Let's take northeast again. And I'm holding down the shift button with my right mouse um, click in order to sort of just pan in 3D mode, right? But you accidentally just change the angle, right? So now suddenly this could be a 46, 38-degree angle, right? Like it's sort of a weird thing and it's not consistent, right? So whenever you accidentally do this, right? If you just did it once, you can always go back to the last view over here. It's a magnifying glass for view and then undo. So undo changing the view. Or you can just simply go back and I always do this anyway. Make sure that I have set view and I again just hit the northeast to make sure that I have everything set the way I want. Okay. So it's a lot of talk, but I did just want to explain these things, like where do these things come from, right? And so again, I'm going to set view, isometric, in this case, northeast, and I have a nice little axon here. Um, And of course, I think your hopefully your planar composition, your what's turned into a spatial light vessel, is much more interesting than mine. I haven't had time to simulate something better here. Lots of things to do, always, every time, all day. But let me just go to. Let me just unhide here. Let's see. Where is that? Is that edit visibility show? I hid my outside edge. My northeast view is really boring. I'm just going to go to, let's say, southwest here and see what that looks like. Should be able to see a lot more. There we are. All righty. So a couple of things here. What I'm suggesting that you do is use your layers and make a few sort of copies of this on different layers. And then each layer, you're sort of removing something or adding something so that you can sort of give a set of snapshots. You can turn certain layers on and off, take an Axon, turn a couple of more layers on, take an Axon, right? And then eventually we'll compose these on a page in Illustrator. And you'll have this sort of matrix of these Axon diagrams, right? That first part of the assignment for Thursday. All right. So I'm going to go over that right now. I'm going to go ahead and save early, save often. Have the sort of habit of using my left hand, either hitting the escape key or hitting Control S. Impulsively, compulsively is just somebody that learned how to use CAD and even MicroStation back in the early aughts, late 90s. Like my left
Josh,
hand is always sort of moving. Yeah,
could you do me a favor? I kind of missed, like, how did you get to the parallel? I know we were working with the
yeah,
axons, and
sure.
how did you, can you step through that for me?
Yep. So
Okay.
typically this view will be set to perspective, right? And what I want to do is I just go to the label. I can do this with any of my viewports, by the way. I can go to the label and click that caret, go down to set view, and then here I can go to isometric, and then I can pick any of these directions, right? So it's always going to look for that the obliques, right? Northeast, northwest, southeast, southwest. I think I'm just going to pick southwest, and now it's in 30/30 axon mode. Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
No, no worries, no problem. Keep interrupting as needed, anybody. Okay. So anyway, this is on a surfaces layer. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and select all of this stuff. I'm going to put it on layer 4. So I'm going to select it, go to the little color wheel here for properties. And here I can see all of the geometry I've selected, its properties. Right now, they're all on this layer called surfaces. I'm just going to click the pull down and put them on layer 4 instead. Okay. All right. Mm-mm-mm. And I can turn then everything else off and turn off all these other layers. And that way they're preserved for posterity, but for right now, I don't want to accidentally touch them, delete them, or anything else. I'm just going to leave them on their layers. I can turn them back on if I need them later. Let's see. So I'm just going to say copy. And I'm going to change. Here's something interesting. I'm going to change my active layer. So I'm going to go down to layer 05 in this case. My cursor, you see where this check mark is? That means that layer 04 is the active layer currently. Anything that I make that's new will be on that layer by default. I'm going to go ahead and check mark 05. And that way, anything that I make new will automatically be on that layer 05. When I type in the copy command, then it asks me for the geometry to copy. I've already selected it. Now it says the point to copy from. Right now I can make a copy anywhere. And then the point to copy to. I'm just going to put it right back into place. All right. Now I have two copies. And oh, for some reason I unselected everything. But I'm going to show you how to fix that here in just a second. What I'm going to do is I'm going to change the color for layer 05. Right now it's set to white. That's not so useful for me since my background is also white. So I'll just pick something obnoxious here like aqua. So I have two copies. If I try to click somewhere and select one of these, it's going to ask me, well, which poly surface are you doing? Because there's two that are exactly the same, right? So what I want to do is select everything that I just made a copy of. I'm just going to type in cell last, select everything that was made last. And it's going to tell me that 6 surfaces, 3 polysurfaces are added to selection. And I'm then going to go to the properties, again, this color wheel, and I'm going to turn them to that layer, right? So now I have two copies, one on the cyan layer and one on this green layer, right? So now I can uh, maybe iteratively start to turn things on or off as I start to do this. I'm going to do the exact same thing, but again with another layer. I'm going to go ahead and turn this silly color from black to orange, and that way I can sort of differentiate by color what I'm looking at. I'll just add a couple more layers. At the layers box, there's usually either at the bottom or the top a button that has the layers icon, but also a plus to add new layer. I'm just going to click that a couple of times, maybe one more time. One, two, three, four, five, six. So if I think about this, maybe I have a 3 by 2 grid of these as I start to go through the steps showing my process. I'll call this layer 07. Just continue the naming convention here for the time being. Layer 09, change the colors again so I can sort of color code these things. Um, I'm trying to find a color that doesn't make my teeth hurt just looking at it. Purple, why not? It's kind of a weird violet color. It's kind of web safety, but whatever. Let's see. Magenta doesn't work because I have magenta set as my salmon. Oh, there we go, as my selection color. Faded salmon. All right, there we are. And then maybe, oh shoot, I don't know, red. Let's go with red. All right. I don't know why I'm belaboring this so much. It doesn't really matter that much. All right, so layer 05, layer 06, layer 04. Okay, so I have layer 4. I'll go ahead and turn that off. I have another copy on layer 05, and I'm just going to select all this stuff and say copy and do the exact same thing. Put that there. Cell last, select the thing I just made a copy of, go to the color wheel, change it to layer 06, and turn layer 06 the active layer, turn layer 05 off now. And I'm just going to keep doing this until I have 6 copies, right? So I already have 3 copies. I just need to do it 3 more times. Select it all, type in copy in my command line, click, and then click right back in the same place. Now I've made a copy in the exact same location. It's already selected. I didn't unselect, thankfully. So I'm just going to go to the color wheel and say, let's make that a layer 07. Let's go back, turn layer 6 off. Now I have layer 07, select all this stuff, copy. See, just repetition. Oops. I don't think I copied that in the right place. Maybe not. Yeah, let's see. So let me just copy this again. Want to make sure I'm actually snapping precisely to that point. That would help. Precision is usually key here. All right, so I'm just doing some layer management, some layer cleanup. That faded salmon looks a little too much like orange for my taste. So what I'll do is I'll pick blue. Oh, wow, the deepest blue I've ever seen. Jesus Christ. All right, so anyway, select copy. This is the last time, I promise. Put that there. Color wheel. Put that on layer 9. Turn this bad boy off. All right, now I have so many copies, it's downright silly. So let me just sort of quickly demonstrate this, right? So for instance, I might call this layer 09, and I'll just type in afterwards final version. And now I'm going to go back to layer 4 and just start to build this up piece by piece, right? I don't know if I have enough pieces in here to really do that, but so maybe for layer 4, I'm going to turn this off. Sorry, delete this, delete all the extra stuff. Just show maybe, yikes, just show this dude, right? And then for layer 5, turn that off. I'm going to remove that outer shell. Just get rid of this extra junk and show now the second step where I've added this horizontal, right? And I could do this for several different pieces, just sort of showing that build up if I wanted to, right? You guys will have more, obviously. And then I'll go to final 09 and I'll include everything, including the outer shell, right? And so if I did this correctly, I'm just going to just sort of show you. Let's see here. There we go. Again, I'm going to go back to my parallel, my label, go to set view. I think I changed my view a little bit by accident by hitting the right mouse button. So I'm going to go to isometric. This was southwest. Oh yeah, there it is. The perfect 30-30 axon. I'm going to frame this so that I keep my viewport exactly the way it is and just turn layers on and off, taking out Axon drawings as we go. All right. So in this case, I'm going to turn this to rendered really quickly so you can see what it looks like. Now you can see that I actually have a shadow here, and that's because I have my sun turned on. All right, I'm going to turn that off for just a second. And this is probably what it looks like if you don't have your sun turned on, you have it set to rendered mode. It's definitely a choice. It's not the best one. And so let me show you where I get this sun icon, right? And how to begin to turn the sun on. Then we'll go back through the display modes and I'll show you your options, and then we'll customize and combine two options together. All right. So first things first, I'm sort of using these interchangeably, but I have layers and properties. And I have some other icons here. If there's an icon here that you need that I'm showing here, but you don't have on your screen, what you can do is you can go further down this little bar and you can right click and it gives you a menu where you can toggle all the available panels that you can dock over here on the right dock. And so Sun should be one of those, along with rendering properties and some other things. So I'm turning on Sun, I'm turning on rendering, and that's the blue sphere that's rendered. The sun with the sun wearing sunglasses, haha. And so now when I can sort of toggle these things on or off by selecting the buttons appropriately. When I click the sun, you'll see that there's some settings. The first one at the very top, surprise, is do you want it on or off? I'm going to hit on. And then from there, it wants to know our location, and it wants to know that for A, the latitude, so it understands the height of the sun, and then the longitude, so it understands the azimuth, right? The direction the sun is coming from, depending on the time of day and time of year, right? You can just simply search Las Vegas, click it, and then suddenly you'll have the right latitude, longitude, and the right time zone. We're on the Pacific time zone, US Pacific. And then from here, you can go and start to change. Oops. I don't know what there we go. You can change the month. You can change the time. So month and day, time, you can be specific over here. You can save daylight savings, whatever, right? But you'll see that we'll start to get some crisp shadows. And in fact, um, there you go, right? All right, so that's how we can start to simulate an accurate sun and begin to understand where that sun is, where the heat's coming from, where the light's coming from, where we might have shade and shadows, and how that all is in constant flux as the Earth spins and leans, right? And tilts back and forth and etc., right? It's always in flux, it's always in change. If you don't like where the sun is, just wait a few seconds and it's moved in the sky according to our point of view. All right, so really quickly, you'll notice that we're looking from the southwest, and so that means quite literally, let's see here. All right, that this way is north. That if I made some sort of axon compass, this is north, south, east, and last but not least, west. And let's see. And so the sun does this essentially. It basically, as we know, rises in the east, sets in the west, and sort of follows a path like that. And of course, it gets higher in the sky. And so it basically forms an arc that does this, right? So what happens? The sun climbs to the south, right? Along this path. All right, just like that. And of course, throughout the year, the sun sometimes rises in let's see, the southeast and sets in the southwest and is really low in the sky. So a very shallow angle like that. That's December 21st. Um, then over January, February, and early March, that sort of where it rises and sets slowly, gradually, incrementally builds to due east, due west on the equinoxes. And then right now, what we're climbing to is the summer solstice, with either June 20th or 21st, in which case the sun is actually rising in the northeast, setting in the northwest. Gets really high in the sky throughout the day, much shorter shadows. And as you can see, it just sort of moves to the sky like so. And you can look at that in an hourly, hour by hour basis. All right. Make sense? Yeah, I think we all know that. But if you didn't, that's how the sun works, right? The sun's going to be in the sky. A lot of the direct daylight comes from the south because we're in the northern hemisphere. If you move to the southern hemisphere, it's the exact opposite. The sun is in the north part of the sky. I was just in Australia, for instance, and it's always sort of loopy. Throws me for a loop when I'm thinking about the model I have of the world when the sun is on the opposite end of the sky. But you know, if you go to Brazil, you go to South Africa, you go to Australia, you go to you know, other places south of the equator, that's the reality, right? It's different. It changes. The closer you get to the equator, the higher the sun is in the sky, and the less tilt matters to you. And of course, the further away you get, the more the tilt matters, and you have more extreme swings and seasons, right? So, like the Arctic and the Antarctic. All right, so let's do this. That's just the rendered mode, right? And what happens though if I want to actually have line work and see these edges and have them drawn out more clearly? Well, we can look at, again, I'm just in the viewport label. It's labeled parallel because I'm in Axon mode. We've talked about wireframe shaded and rendered. Let me just go to technical. And you can see that, ta-da, we have a line drawing. I'm not sure what this is. Oh, it's because I have a surface here for some reason. All right. I had an extra surface there for whatever reason. I just got rid of it. But you can see that again, we have a nice thing. But here's the thing, right? Like I kind of like the line drawing, although we need line weights, right? And more about that in just a minute. And I also like the rendered mode. Why can't we have both, right? There is no mode in here that combines those two together by default. Like just opening Rhino out of the box stupidly, for whatever reason, they don't include it. There's things like Arctic mode, which is a different type of render mode. There's monochrome mode. This is getting closer, by the way. Oh, maybe they actually added monochrome mode. I wonder what that is. Well, we'll look at this, but look at this, right? When I go to monochrome mode, I do have those edges. I do have the crisp shadows and the soft shadows. And look at this. Do you notice that the outline, the lines that are drawn for the outline are a little darker, a little thicker than the lines that aren't sort of around the silhouette of the object? So it's actually again a good rule of thumb, the basics of line weights. All right, so maybe they did. Finally, they did this, so we don't actually have to make our own. You can go to monochrome, and that's what I recommend that you use because it's the best of both worlds. You're going to get the line work, you're going to get some line weights, and I'll show you how you can adjust those if you want to in a minute. And you're going to get shadows, right? So that's beautiful. They didn't used to have that. Monochrome, that's my new favorite display mode. Yay. All right. So if you have Rhino 8, it looks like that monochrome is the way to go. And so let's just quickly talk about how you can adjust and change some of these things. If you want to get under the hood and start to adjust some of these display modes, let's say you don't like how the line weights are displayed or something like that, or you want to change the line work to a different color or something like that. Please don't do that. Just leave it as black. But I'm just going to show you where these settings are. So if you go to in Windows, Rhino for Windows, you go to Tools, pull down all the way at the bottom. There's the options again. We did this at the very beginning to look at units and make sure everything was set to feet and inches, right? I'm just going to go to the options again. It brings up this box with a menu on the left with all these different categories of options. Down at the very bottom is view. And if I click the caret to expand it out, I have display modes. If I click that caret to bring it out, then you can see all the different display modes, including some that I've created down here called 367 Grid Shell Drawings, 711 Custom, 7111 Summer 2025. But I'm just going to go to monochrome and drill down. You can see that all of the settings for how it shades, how it renders, how it displays lines, they're all up here, and you can actually begin to change them if you want. And more importantly, if you accidentally change something and you don't like it and you can't figure out how to change it back, you can go down here and say restore defaults, and it just sets it all the way back to the factory settings again for this display mode, right? So I can come here and I can say the background is a solid color, or do I want, you know, maybe I don't want white. Maybe I want, let's see, solid color. What's the color? Maybe I want baby diarrhea orange or whatever that is. Let me just change that back to white. Ugh. Right? We have solid color. You could actually make a gradient. There's lots of different things here. I wouldn't just go crazy here. Like I would do is simply focus on the fundamentals. Again, we're looking at surface as it relates to how light washes across it and shadows move through them or on them. We're looking at line work. And so I would simply stick with that monochrome setting, right? But I just want to show you this. One thing that's missing here, if we wanted to turn these on, we could turn on hidden lines. And I think then we would actually start to see dashed hidden lines. You can see they're very faint. And they're dashed and they're also gray, light gray. But they're there now. So if you wanted to do that, you could. Um, and then of course, let me just go back, tools, options. I'm going to turn those hidden lines off. I don't really need them. Let's see. So if I go to objects and go to points and curves and lines, let's go to lines. Hidden lines, I can change the color of the hidden lines. I can change the line weight, the line width of them. I can change how they're displayed, both for edge lines, the silhouette, the outline, right, intersections, etc. So here's a really nice way of changing all of those at once if you'd like. But I'm going to leave them as B. I recommend that you just use the monochrome display mode settings. And last but not least, I'm just going to zoom out a bit. What I want to do is I want to make sure, just gonna add the final version here, that literally everything is being shown here when as I start to make these. I'm just going to go and just take the first snapshot, layer 04, turn that on, turn everything else off. And then to get this little Axon drawing representation out, I'm going to say View, Capture to File. So View pull down, Capture, and then to File. If you're on the Mac, I believe you can just use the command Capture, type it in the command line, and then it'll ask you. I think you can do the same thing here. You can say Capture, View, Capture to File, Screen Capture to File. I'm just gonna do it here. Capture to File. All right. It's going to ask me several things here. Oh, I think I actually deleted the surface. Oh, that's not good. Although it shows it. Oh, anyway. Whatever. So a couple things here. Let me just, sorry, I don't know why I went off that tangent. Let's see, to file. It says, do you want a transparent background? I'm going to say no. I'm just going to leave it as white. I don't have a lot of shadows. And I'm going to say viewport resolution. You can see that right now what it's doing is it's just taking the viewport resolution. So in this case, the size of my viewport is 2,548 pixels wide, 1,446 pixels tall. And I can again adjust my window size if I'm in a different browser, or just sorry, a different monitor. I could always change that. But anyway, if I want something higher resolution, I can change the scale, right? So right now the resolution is 1:1. If I change the scale, now suddenly I'll get something that's 5,096 wide, 2,892 tall. Maybe I'll do that just to make sure I have something that's decent resolution. I'm going to remember that and make sure that everything's set to that. I'm going to make sure that grid and world axes and C-plane axes are turned off. I'm not going to leave the transparent background. I'm going to hit OK. And now it's just going to simply say, what do you want to name the file? What type do you want it to be? And where do you want to save it? So in this case, I'll go to, let's see. Hmm. I'll just throw it in here. It's not good practice. I don't have a folder for this course yet for some stupid reason. Because it's summertime. I'm just too lazy to do things in advance. But I'm going to say Axon 01. And I'm going to spell Axon right this time. Try to act a little smarter for this the week. And hit OK and save. And eventually it'll tell you up in the command line, oh yeah, it was successfully saved. Now, I'm not going to move anything here on the screen. I'm just simply going to turn this layer on and turn that layer off and do the exact same thing. So now I have snapshot number 2 in my storyboard here. And I'm just going to simply go to View, pull down, Capture to File. And again, just double check, make sure everything looks kosher here. Hit OK. And I'm going to call this one Axon 02. And I'll leave it as a PNG. PNG file type is pretty underrated. It's pretty good. Then I'll do the next one. Oh, look what happened. I didn't have this set so that I could see everything all at once. See how it's cut off at the corner? That's unacceptable. I can't live with that. So I'm going to have to do this over again. I'm just going to zoom out just a bit, adjust this. All right, and start over. It's good practice, though, to show you guys this again, right? So again, I'm going to make sure that everything lines up and stays on my screen. And then I'm going to leave it and I'm not going to move it at all because I want it to be look exactly the same, just adding more things or turning things on or off for each snapshot here. So I'm just going to go to view, damn, capture to file, of course. Um, Always something, right? And I'm going to call this Axon 01. I'm just going to overwrite the one, replace the one I just made. Yes. Do this one, turn that one off, do the exact same thing. Ta-da, let's see. View pull down, capture to file, make sure everything looks the same, hit OK. Axon 02, yes. Do I want to replace it? Of course I do. No, I accidentally did all this work. File, exports, no, sorry. View, capture to file. Let's see. Yep. Okay. And it's a work in progress. We can always clean these things up later. One thing you might notice is that where I have a plane coming right to the edge, I see those edges that you wouldn't necessarily want to see that in this, but I'm leaving it in anyway. It's just a work in progress. Right? All right, so now I have like three different axons ready to put on a page. This is where having Adobe Illustrator comes in really handy. I'm going to open up Adobe Illustrator on my Mac side here. I'm running Rhino for Windows and Parallels over Mac OS. So it's like this constant sort of shift back and forth between operating systems, but I'm cool with it. I just learned to love it. Yeah, yeah, sure, why not? It's like it always acts like this is the first time I've opened up Adobe Illustrator, even though far from it. So I'm just going to open up Illustrator and say new file. In this case, I'm just going to go with something really simple. Let's go with landscape oriented width 11 inches, height 8.5. We'll go with an 8.5 by 11 in landscape orientation. I'm going to hit make or add or whatever. All right, and here's an artboard in Illustrator. And we're going to go over a lot of Illustrator over the semester, right? But suffice to say, here we're just going to use it as an over-glorified poster board where we can place images, line them up in a grid, and save as a PDF. All right, so we're not to start off with, we're not going to use anywhere near all the features that Illustrator have to offer. But I'm going to say File, Pull Down, and Place. Now I can start to place the images that I just made. And that would include, let's see, there's an Axon. That's a gorgeous Axon, by the way. Let's go teaching. Where did I save these? Yeah, here we go. Axon 01, 2, and 3. I'm just going to hold down the Command key or Shift key, I guess, or Control key, depending on if you're using Mac OS or Windows PC, and hit place. And it's saying, okay, place the first of three. I'm just going to place here, and then place here, and then place here. What you can see is that these are a lot larger than my 8.5 by 11 by a lot. Holy moly. Here's my 8.5 by 11 artboard, and here are the images. You can see that they're ridiculously large, like just silly how large they are. So, a couple of things, right? Uh, don't know if any of you how familiar some of you are with Illustrator. Probably some of you are, and some of you aren't. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through a couple of things. I'm saying command, but for a PC keyboard, it'd be control. I'm going to hit control 0 or command 0, and that'll fit the artboard to screen. If I hit command or control minus, I zoom out, and plus, command or control plus, I zoom in, right? If I hold the space bar down on my keyboard, my cursor turns to a hand and I can pan around and shift things over without selecting anything. All right, now finally, I can select this first image. And here's something else that I think Adobe does that's not progress. I don't understand why they do this every time. Let me just make sure that this is docked over here. Is I want certain tools to show up on this top toolbar by default. I don't want them hidden in 16 different ways. I don't want to be 13 clicks away from where I want to be. I just want to see them. So I'm going to go to Window, pull down. I'm going to go to Workspace. I'm going to say Essentials Classic. All right. Move this over. Now, when I select things, I can go up here to transform, and I can see exactly where it is in like the top left corner of it in X and Y. And I can see the width in X and the height in Y, and I can change them. I can make sure that this constrain width and height proportions is toggled on. It's pressed in. If I can always toggle it off, but I'm going to toggle it on. And that way, if I adjust the width, the height will also adjust with it accordingly according to the original aspect ratio, uh, the original size, right? So in this case, I'm going to say, well, let's see, I have 11 wide. So I'm going to start with maybe a width of 5.5 inches or half of the overall length, right? And now I'm going to do the exact same thing for this one, right? I'm going to go to transform. I'm going to make it the exact same size. It was in the exact orientation in Rhino. So they're all going to look like they're just snapshots. They're all going to perfectly line up. It's going to be so great. I can just tell already. I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about it. All right. And then the same thing with this one. Da 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 da. All right. Maybe that's a little dramatic, but still, good drawing is a good drawing. It gets my blood pumping in the morning. Not just the elliptical and the treadmill. All right. And I'm just going to zoom in. Let's see what we have here, right? So, one thing you'll notice is that I have a lot of empty space here and a lot of awkward sort of spacing around these things. If I was going to do this, let's say maybe I had like 6 steps, so I had like 3 steps along the top and then another row with 3 steps along the bottom, continuing until I build up to this one where I see the whole thing. Then, what I might do is try to keep it this size, but then crop around it so that I have more room, right? Because there's a lot of awkward open space here that I don't need, right? Illustrator's a little different in that I don't necessarily have a box to do that with. What I can do is draw a proposed outline called a mask around this, and then mask these two things together in order to sort of crop it, right? So it's kind of a weird way of describing it, but hear me out. I'm going to show you this. I'm recording this, remember, if you need to go back and look at it again, but I'll do it again and again just so you can sort of see how this works. But I have this image, and what I want to do is I simply want to make another rectangle. I'm just going to go over here to the toolbar. Again, very similar. You start to see some similarities between the interface of Rhino and this interface of Adobe Illustrator. There's toolbars on the left. There's boxes that we can toggle on and off on the right, and then there's some things along the top, right? Just like Rhino. So I'm going to go to the toolbar and I'm going to look at where it says rectangle. I'm going to click it and draw a rectangle. All right, there it is. There's a rectangle. Now it looks like I can't see my original image underneath it anymore. So it looks like it has a white fill that's opaque. And then it also looks like it has a black outline around it, right? And the reason I also know that, just beyond looking at it with my eyes, is when I click on it, I can see that over here, its properties, I have a white fill and a black outline or stroke, right? So what I can do is I can take this and I can just simply say, I could double click on this and set it to any color if I want, right? Let's see what happens when I do this. Why is it not working? Yeah, there we go. I don't know why it was not working. But anyway, you get the idea. But I don't want a red background and all that stuff. I'm going to click on the fill color and I'm going to go down here right underneath and say, I don't want any fill. And I'm going to also go to the stroke and say, I don't want a black outline. That just looks tacky, right? So now I still have a frame here, a shape, a rectangle, but I don't see it. It's transparent. Okay. It has no fill and no stroke color. And now if I select both at once, I'm just going to click and drag and make sure that I have both selected, right? What I can do is I can say, I want to use this as the new window or mask and only show the part of the image inside or the only image underneath it that's inside of it, right? Everything outside will be cropped. Okay. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Object. I know this is so not intuitive, but you'll have to get used to it if you're going to use Illustrator in any meaningful way. I'm going to say, let's see, Path. Let's go with, where's Mask? Da, 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 da. This should be really quite simple. Clippy Mask. There we go. It's all the way down at the bottom for some reason. Should be at the top. So I'm going to say Clippy Mask and make. All right. And now what you see is we have this image, we have the mask. If I double click on it, I can go back inside and I can start to change it. We have all those ingredients. I could change the size of that mask just to show you, right? That mask means basically everything outside of the mask will be masked away from view, right? Like masking tape almost, right? So what we want to do is arrange this around the object just so we see just the object itself inside. It's like a nice picture frame or window. double click and get back out. And now I can sort of move this around and I have space around it. I don't have this awkward excess space around this thing, right? And I can do the exact same thing for the next one. Right? I'll make another frame around this. Ta-da! Here we go. Look at it, saved my settings. I have zero fill and zero stroke or outline. I'm just going to select them all at once, click and drag, and make sure I select them both. Then hit Object, Clippy Mask Make. There we are. Oh, it's so beautiful. All right. And then I want to make sure these are lined up in a nice grid, right? Same thing over here. I'm going to do the exact same thing. Let's make another rectangle mask. Here we are. Leave a little at the bottom in case there's a shadow there. I don't want to. It's always a tell when you have like a shadow and suddenly it's cropped unnaturally and doesn't just sort of fade to white. Select them both, hit Object, Clippy Mask, Make. Right. And again, you'll have time all this week to practice this. Do it. Ask me questions if you can't remember something. But this is what you're going to do. You're going to probably do like, have more snapshots than just three. But you're going to do this. You're going to sort of go through your process. You can do it. You can do it the exact opposite of the sort of workflow I'm doing. You could start with the overall and then start to take the shell away and start to subtract components. Sort of talking about the different horizontals and verticals you have as a sort of analysis set of diagrams. Or you could say, this is step by step how I made it, right? First, I started with this piece. Then I added these two. Then I made this. Then I inserted these. Then I put the shell on. Then I cut the holes or whatever it is, right? So, um, but I leave that up to you to sort of tell me how you did this. And you're only doing this once with this vessel, right? But I want you to go through these steps, um, starting today, and then tomorrow we'll have work time, because I want you to try it, fail early, fail often. We can then talk about things, get you over the hump if you need it. When it comes to overcoming any challenges, technical hurdles, if you will. And then you'll have this beautiful, gorgeous set of axons, right? Axon diagrams. All right. Now let's talk about the second part, right? Sort of larger overall axons. One of the things
I
you'll
have a quick
notice,
question.
yeah, okay, just a sec. One of the things you might notice is that the line weights look good and the amount of lines look good at a certain scale, right? But as soon as you blow them up bigger, you might need to adjust the line weights proportionally so that you still see the line work. So that's something else that we need to address when we do these larger axons from the northeast, southeast, southwest, northwest. All right, Isaac, yeah, go for it. Sorry to cut you off there. I can't hear you. Maybe your mic's not on again.
Uh, oh, just a quick question. What's the
Yep.
page size that you did again?
8.5 by 11.
Okay.
Yeah, really simple. And that way, if I decide to print these off, we can print them off in the office printer, and then we can sort of take a look at them, spread them out on a table or something if we need to later. All right.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. All right, so let's go back and take a look at this, right? So for instance, I have this, and if this is going to be a lot larger, then I maybe want to have more lines and maybe even want to read the hidden lines a little easier, right? You can see them. There are hidden lines here, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to beef them up. So in this case, maybe I will go to my tools options, tools pull down options, and here's something interesting. If instead of going to monochrome, if I go to display modes, it'll show me all the different display modes. If I select monochrome, I can say copy down here at the bottom. All right, this is called copy of monochrome. And I'm going to say copy of monochrome, um, darker line weights. I'm just going to name that way so I understand what it is. And I'm going to say, okay, show the hidden lines. I'm going to drill through some of these settings. I'm just going to look at the objects and go to lines. And I'm going to be very careful and start to change the settings here. So for the hidden line width, I might actually beef that up to 2. For edge line width, I might beef it up from 2 to 3. From intersection and silhouette lines, I might beef it up from 2 to 4. And I'm curious if this is actually showing me what it's doing in real time. No, it's not. I think I have to hit OK. And I'm actually going to change the hidden line color and the edge line color, change that to black. And I'll change this to a darker gray, maybe, just so I can see them a little easier. Maybe I'll just turn it into black. Let's see, hidden line width, hidden line color usage. Yeah. And I'll hit OK. Let's see what that looks like. All right, so maybe a little darker. I'm just going to go back and I just keep going back and forth, seeing what changes. What so again, I'm in copy of monochrome. Go to lines, look at these settings, start to beef some of these things up a little more. I suspect I'm going to get something crazy if I keep going. Let's see. Oh, I know why it's not changing. Duh. Okay, watch. I'm still set on monochrome. Once I make a new or a new copy of any of these display modes, you can see that when I go to the viewport label, right, they start to show up. Here's a copy of monochrome with darker line weights. You can see that it's ridiculous line weights now. I need to go back and change these. I was like, why is it not showing up? And then I realized why it's not. It's because I'm silly. All right, four. Let's turn this back to two. Turn this back to three. Turn this back to four. Let's see what happens when I do that. Yeah, it's starting to look a little better. Um, yeah, so I can start to see things a little easier, right? And it's probably, again, the line weights can be, you kind of have to be your own critical judge here. Like for instance, what I'm going to do is double check, make sure that I have this set to isometric southwest, right? I'm just going to leave it right there. Actually, I'm just going to zoom out just a smidge here. Maybe change the shape of this viewport just a little bit so I don't have so much wide width here. I mean, I only need so much width and height, right? I mean, silly. So I'm just going to do that by changing my display port window. Ah, come on. Sorry, it's like running two operating systems at once is kind of goofy sometimes. All right, I'll just leave it at that. I'll just do this. Let's see. Set view, isometric, southwest. We'll call it a day. All right. And again, I'm just going to go to view, pull down, capture the file, transparent background. No, I'm just going to go ahead and hit OK. Times two is just fine. I'm going to say Axon Southwest. And now I'm going to go to my viewport label and change the view, set view. Instead of isometric Southwest, I'm going to say Southeast. Ah, there we go. You can see that I'm having some trouble with the shadows being cut, but we'll worry about that tomorrow when we do some more demonstrations. I'm going to get through some of these things today so you can see how these work, know what you're working towards. Hit OK. This time I'll call this Axon. What was this? This was Southeast, I believe. Save, right? And then let's see, we've Southwest, Southeast, Northwest. Here we are. View, captured a file. Okay. It's really annoying having to change these every time. Northwest, there we are. And last but not least, we'll go to Northeast, probably the least interesting view of all from on mine. Like I'd need to redo this if I look at it and go, oh man, this, like that's such a blank wall. Ugh, woof. Anyway, so view, capture to file, and okay, and let's go Axon and Northeast. Now I have four axons I can do. All right. In Illustrator, I can either start a new file and put another page in, or what I can do is I can create another page or artboard in Illustrator in my same file, right? So now I can have them side by side, publish them as one PDF, one page, two page, three page. So I'm just going to, again, I'm in the Windows pull down workspace Essentials Classic, window, workspace. Oh, why does it keep closing? Essentials Classic. When I do that, it also has a button up here called Document Setup. Whenever I don't have something selected, I get the document properties, things I can edit. It brings up a box. I can say edit artboards. And now I can stretch or change the size of this artboard. I can just click and drag and make a new artboard. I can say, oh, that's 8.5 by 11. It's snapping up nicely. I'm going to try to make this exactly 11. It's 11:01. It's going to drive me crazy. Um, but don't fear, like we have this artboard selected, you can see that I have the height and width here. And I can be very specific and type in 11, make sure that it's exactly 11 inches long, 8.5 wide or tall, and hit OK. Right now I can place my other, what do you call it, axons here. So let's see, place, file, pull down, place. There we are. Northeast, northwest, southeast, southwest. Now we'll have sort of four snapshots of this thing in the round, if you will, right? All right. Sound effects are always optional. I just don't even realize I'm doing them half the time. Let's see, width. We'll just go with 6 inches. Yeah, why not? We're gonna have to mask these anyway, but I want them nice and large, so I'll probably um, increase them later once I get them masked, so I can start to really fill out the page. Ta-da! And let's see. Yeah, there we go. Now, I have two shadows that are cut off right here. So I'm going to put those at the bottom where it looks like they would just be naturally cut off from the page rather than having them float, but have a cut there. That looks so weird, right? Not ideal, but I'm just going to, take some artistic license here anyway. Let's see. And I think these things can get a little larger. So I'm just going to, now that I have them fitting on the page a little better, I can see what my choices actually give me. I'm going to say 7.5. I'll just transform each of these, make them larger, but I'm going to make them all uniformly larger, right? That's the key thing here. I want them all to look like the exact same size, just changing the directions, but the exact same object, exact same size, and the exact same environment here. 7.5. And then from here, I just need to mask them, right? So I can do that relatively quickly. I'm just going to draw a rectangle that corresponds here. Click the two together, select both of them at once, and hit Object, Clipping Mask Make. There we are. Oh, yeah. I love it with good mask. There we go. Okay, let's see. Let's do this one. Why not? There we are. And select them both. I'm using Shift button on my keyboard if I want to just click on certain things to select multiple objects. Clipping Mask Make. There we are. Can move this guy over. Looks like there's plenty of screen real estate here after I make the appropriate um, cropping or masks. So and do the same thing here. All right. Yeah. All right. Object, clipping mask make. Same thing over here. And then last but not least, once I have this completed, I'm going to arrange these things and make sure that they all line up in a nice grid. Object, clipping mask make. Yeah, so I'm going to make sure that these all line up and line up this way. This corner is going to line up with that corner. You can see I still have a little bit of a seam where the shadow gets cut off. I'll line that up with that. Oh, now I have a nice grid just showing this thing from all four vantage points, right? You can see it, these hidden lines are a little goofy, right? Like they're need to change those maybe, change the properties how those look, but I can worry about that later. It depends on if I ever do this again. But for right now, for the scale that we're working at, it's a work in progress. I just want to see your progress. And you go through these motions and start to learn and understand how you start to produce drawings from the models that you're making, even if they're just simple diagrams like this. This is going to force you to do several things, right? Finish up if you're a light vessel, if you haven't yet. Two, to internalize what did you just do and what's successful or not, like what were the steps. Go through with some layer management if you need to, like I did, I showed at the beginning, making copies and adding layers, trying to, again, show this thing being built or building up step by step. Um, and then actually starting to compose, in this case, axonometric projection diagrams of your process, right? So, which is an important drawing to learn about. We have just a little bit of time left, and then tomorrow is all work, and I can demo anything as needed on a needed on an as needed basis. answer questions. What I'd like for you to do, I'm going to demonstrate in the time that we have left some perspectives and turning on the sun and moving it, just so we can start to see what that looks like. And and then how to bring those out, and I'll add them. I'll add some to this Illustrator file. But suffice to say, I'm going to save this Illustrator file first. And of course, we have the .ai extension. That's Adobe Illustrator, not artificial intelligence. So let's say Axon, Axon's process or something like that. I'll name it something that I know what it is when I see it later. Hit save, right? What version? I don't really care. Just leave it as the default and hit OK. What we can also do at the end is you can save as and save it as a PDF, right? So now I can have PDF as an option, and PDF is like one of those, universal file formats. Anybody can open it up. You can always preview a PDF, even on your smartphone. You don't necessarily need a full version of Acrobat in order to do that. So PDF is that sort of universal file type that can always be looked at and previewed. So that's why we use it. Okay, so back to Rhino. All right, so we've been working in parallel projection. It says parallel here. Um, I can I can change this back to perspective. I can change any of these to perspective if I want. I can just click on it and say set view perspective. Like later on, I go, oh man, I want that to be top view again. Oh, no worries. Just click here and say set view and go back to top. There it is, top view again. But anyway, I'm going to turn parallel back to perspective. Again, that viewport label, click on it, set view, and now I can go to perspective. There we go. That looks like a perspective. Hot diggity. All right. So, I might go back and just sort of, instead of making this the darker line weights, I might just go back to monochrome. I like those line weights a little better when it comes to perspectives. I don't necessarily need all the lines work and hidden lines and things like that. Okay. I'm just trying to move my camera or myself inside this thing. Now, by default, the perspective camera angle is not wide angle. It's pretty zoomed in. I can tell that if I just simply go to the properties box. I don't have anything selected. It's going to give you the viewport, the properties of the viewport that you're in. So it's telling me right here what the width and height of the viewport is. That's in perspective mode. Display mode is set to monochrome. And then we have something called lens length. So the larger we make this, the more it's like a telescopic lens. It starts to really zoom in and crop everything else out, right? So if I go to 100, I can see a lot less, but I'm also zooming out further. It's like telescope. If I make this smaller, like let's say 35 millimeter, I can start, it goes to wider angle. In other words, I can start to see more in the same amount of frame. And if I do something really extreme, 25, now I can start to see, I can get a perspective where I can start to see, all kinds of things in here. And if your scroller on your mouse is being a little too sensitive, then you can always use this magnifying plus minus and just very delicately start to move around. But now I'm going to speculate what happens when I'm standing here in a perspective at eye level with this thing sort of soaring above me. Let's see here. And I go, man, I wonder what it'd be like in that space. Now I'm going to go back to the sun and let's start to look at different times of year and different types of day. What happens in the wintertime when I get a lower sun and therefore more sunlight penetration into these openings, the south opening, right? I can start to see what kinds of effects I might have with shadow and bright spots. And so let's say this isn't a perspective that I want, right? Where, later on I would think about where this is pointed. Maybe it's on axis with a view of the stratosphere, whatever it's called, the strat, sort of centered up into it. Maybe you come here different times of the year, and then suddenly you get uh, like an alignment of shadows and things like that with edges of the surfaces or something like that. But I'm simply going to again go to View, Capture to File, and I'm going to bring this out. I'll call this Perspective 01. right? Now, so here's some things to avoid, right? Unless there's some specific effect that you want to show where you need to be over here, what's wrong with this view? It looks like I'm 30 feet tall, when in fact I'm not. So typically we try to make what we call eye level perspectives. What actual people inside your space would see because we're at eye level just like any other real human at this scale, right? You can see I have some light leaks here based on these settings. So sometimes you want to minimize that or change the angle of the sun, or maybe add something outside just for that one shot. But so that's why I was going here, thinking about what the height is, trying to line myself up with what the height of what a human being would is, and sort of so that I sort of again I'm simulating how this would actually be seen by somebody who is probably of average height, somewhere between in the neighborhood of 5 feet to 6 feet, something like that, right? Some people are taller, some people are shorter, but I'm just sort of thinking average right now. I could show this washing across the wall, and of course, in the wintertime, look how dramatic that is. It's gorgeous, right? Imagine this being volumetric light rays. You can see the little dust particles inside, right? As this thing sort of sweeps across. Maybe then I start to get an idea where, you know, at lunchtime, people come here and I put markings on the floor so they can actually read this as some sort of sundial, right? You can tell the time just simply by going here on the winter solstice uh, and then seeing where the edges of the shadows are, or something like that, right? You can always have fun, play around with these sort of poetics of surface, light, space. Okay. And so I'll go over this again, the perspective part and that sun tomorrow if need be. But I want you to try all of this, right? You're not going to get 100% done by between now and tomorrow, or at least probably some of you won't, right? But I want you to try. I want you to, again, the try it out and let's understand where the complications are, right? Again, fail early, fail often. So I want you guys to try your best over the evening time looking at this stuff or between classes or whatever it is. And then tomorrow morning, the first question I'm going to have for you guys is, where did what do I need to re-show? Or is anybody having any specific issues? I'll let you share your screen or whatever, right? But it'll be work time as well. And I'll just be there to help debug or do any kind of demonstrations as on a need to need basis. Um, right. So really quickly, zoom out a bit. What time does this class go to? 11:10? Like we're almost done, right? Because if we
Yep,
had more
11,
time, yeah.
11, 10.
Okay, yeah. Because if we had more time, that'd be great. But we don't, unfortunately. I'll just go back here, edit artboards, make another one. It's not quite 11 inches. I'll just type in 11 inches and hit enter. Now I can place this one as well. File, place, perspective. There we are. Click that there. I'll just make this 11 inches wide. Oops, not one. Undo, transform, 11. There we are. Just make that as big as as big as the page will handle, right? Um, One other thing that we'll cover next week, once you guys get these workflows down, is in Illustrator. I'll give you guys some silhouettes of humans and trees, and we'll start to place human scale figures into this, so that people can start to understand the scale, and you can as well. And then we can actually add some vegetation around these as well. And we can talk about further masking, adjusting transparencies, looking at eye level, and talking more about perspective and axon differences with how you actually insert humans. We usually try to add what we call entourage, humans, furnishings, other things, because A, it shows scale, right? If I look at this right now, is this a little Lego toy or is this like a big ass building, right? Hard to tell without any little scale figures, to say that this is a big building, right? 40 feet tall or something, right? So that's part of the reason why we use it. And then sometimes we also begin to suggest how this thing fits in with the urban fabric program, like what people are doing. This is a plaza, people are sitting, eating lunch. Yeah, kids are playing, throwing the frisbee around, whatever it is, right? Like so we try to show some atmospheric, some ambiance, begin to suggest how humans occupy and activate these spaces, inside and outside, etc. Right? So that's what will be coming up once I feel like you guys have a handle on the workflows. I'll provide some silhouette packs for you guys if you need them, of a lot of little human silhouettes doing things, standing, talking, holding hands and walking, whatever it is, right? And same with some vegetation, some trees, including some trees that are a little more appropriate for our desert Southwest. Okay. So always thinking a couple steps ahead, but this is what I want you to do now. You need to start to bring some closure to this vessel. If you need to keep moving, editing, subtracting, adding to it, go for it. Do it quickly. Now try to turn that corner. Think about the step by step how it was made, go through the layer management, then try to bring out these axons one by one, then compose them onto a page, right? Be reductive, think of it step by step. You're going to get lots of practice with this workflow, so don't worry about that. And then that's what I really want to help develop this week. All right. From here, I'd need to make two more perspectives. I might need I'd look at this and go, man, I really need more stuff in here. And so I might need more steps. I might need to sort of, I didn't follow the instructions. I'd actually need to compose at least, what was it, nine of those pieces together. I only have like two or three. So yeah. So anyway, I have some work to do if I'm looking at mine right now. Okay. But I just wanted to go through the workflows with you. And again, thanks for your patience. I'm going to post this as soon as it's done processing the video. I'll see most of you this afternoon in studio, at studio over Zoom. And again, a reminder, tomorrow we'll all be in Zoom. I've been advised by the School of Architecture, just don't even bother having class, particularly in the afternoon in the building. It's quite warm inside right now because the air conditioner's down. They should have it fixed hopefully by midweek, but well, I'm not going to make all of our plans contingent on that. I just want to make sure that when we do go, if anybody wants to go to the School of Architecture in person, that that there's a modicum of human comfort inside. We're not all sweating to death. All right. So I'll see you, most of you tomorrow on Zoom, all of you tomorrow morning. Or sorry, see most of you this afternoon on Zoom, all of you tomorrow morning on Zoom. Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yep. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now I got to figure out how to stop recording.